Do you play much golf, Doc?
No. Every once in a while. All right. I want to thank you all for being here, both in person and online. Tonight's talk, safety pin cycle, principles of life. So we're going to be going over how the body communicates, some systems that 90% of the people I find have this one specific area not working correctly, and it can explain major issues. So an example, I'll go through everything that can be wrong or show up as a symptom if this one thing is not working correctly. Eating, you get burping, stomach cramps, heartburn, indigestion, diarrhea, gas pain. You need to use antacids. You get depression, anxiety, memory problems, sleep problems, pain, and so forth. So I'm letting you know all of these can actually come from one specific neurological thing, and we'll go into it and show you what that actually can be, how we can actually assess it, how simple it is to assess it, what are the simple ways that we can actually get that system to start working correctly and get our body healing in the manner that we'd want it to heal. So with that being said, thank you again for being here. And my ask is always come with an open heart and an open mind. And why I say this is I want you to help others. Yes, you will get better. Yes, you will learn something. But what good is that unless we move it on to somebody else, because we can actually give what we got. So that's my hope and my prayer every time. And that's why we do these talks, is to help you move your community forward, help you give to your friends and family members that are stuck, don't know what to do, feel frustrated, say there's nothing else that we can do. I've tried everything. There is something else. So you can be that light, you can be that uplifter, you can be that sparkle of hope for that person, letting them know there are other mechanisms and other manners to which you can go through. Because we'll quite often see somebody come in and they'll tell me literally, you name the clinic or office of the very world-renowned XYZ, and they've gone there. I had one lady who flew in, and she flew in her daughter, who was 16, from Washington State, and she had records of spending $1 million to try to get this child better. And it ended up this child had PANS or pandas. So this is an immune issue where literally the immune system is not working correctly. It's an inflamed brain. And they had been everywhere and told, we can't do anything. And literally everywhere. And she would fly down and we would see her 3 times a day. And she did this for 2-week periods at a time. And within 3 months, we had her stabilized. Was it simple? No, there was multiple systems causing inflammation, but there are ways to get you better that are not in the conventional medical model. That means the blood work, when you look at it, if a medical physician looks at it, they look at a pathology level. That means it has to be so big that you have to show disease. Not sick, disease. So we know optimal, and if it's outside of optimal, we know you're getting sick. So I'll give you an example. If we look at blood sugars, and the first sign of any blood sugar problem is, and this is pre-diabetes, is that you have changes in energy after you eat. Either you get energized or you get tired. If you have either of those problems, we have a blood sugar issue. Then the first changes that will actually show up are either increased triglycerides or changes in cholesterol. And that's pre-diabetes. And the A1C will be fine and the blood glucose will be fine. But if your cholesterol is off and your triglycerides off, we know you have inflammation issues. Majority of the time, if it's triglycerides, 100% it's blood sugar. And if it's lipid panel or cholesterol, it'll tell us majority of the time that's the issue as well. So you have to look at it from a different viewpoint, not do you have a disease? It's are you functioning correctly, healthy, adaptive, or are we starting to veer off course? Are we starting to go in the wrong direction? That's why we look at functional neurology, functional medicine. We're not looking at pathology or disease. It's very easy to find a tumor. It's hard to find what caused the tumor. that make sense? So if we wait until the problem's there, it's really hard to fix. If we get it when you first start veering off, it's very easy to pull back. Once you get into metabolic syndrome and full-blown glucose issues, it's really hard to pull you out of it. But once we get you, when you first come in and say, yeah, I get tired after every time I eat, we know you have an insulin sensitivity issue. And it's very quick and easy for us to help you with that. But you're if you're metabolic, then we got bigger issues. Is it making sense? So there's literally gray or a continuum of perfectly healthy, dead, and where are we going? Which way are we going? If we, in another example, if we continually let our oxygen drop when we're sleeping, like sleep apnea, that'll cause chronic inflammation and can lead to heart disease. If we continually have blood sugar spikes and drops, everything I just told you that one nerve can cause can also happen because of that. Everything I just told you can literally happen because of blood sugar issues. So we have to look at it and understand there are multiple systems that are in control here. I'm going to go over the neurological component today, but understand there's also the functional endocrinology that is played back on the neurological component. So what we're going to look at today is the safety pin cycle. And I'm going to give you a basic explanation, and then we'll get into the big one. Now, as you can see, I am a glorious artist. My stick man is no compare. But what I really want to talk to you about is this. How the brain talks to the body, and the body talks back to the brain. This is the safety pin cycle. This is the basic principle that we need to understand. When the brain talks to the body, it's called efferent. And when the body talks to the brain, it's called afferent. So E exit, going out, A coming back. So brain to body, body to brain. This cycle determines how your brain perceives itself and how it changes. So you ever heard of good information in, good information out, bad information in, bad information out? That's how the body works. But the body's interesting because it uses multiple systems to determine the information. The one system that drives 60 to 80% of the information is actually the sensory of the spine. So let me put this another way. If your spinal sensory is out of alignment, everything in your life will be wrong. So the newest research in neuroscience and psychology talks about these network systems and how they communicate. The base of the network system is how the body sees itself in space. So what that means is if you have good information from the body to the brain can make the right decision and talk to the body. 60 to 80% of all the information going to the brain is literally coming from the spine, aka where your body is in space, joint movement. So let's think about this. If 60% of everything your body does to see where it is in space is bad, is the brain going to make the right outcome happen? No. So how does that show up in our office? That shows up as somebody with a subluxated or misaligned spine. So that misalignment happens because the brain can't see what's happening correctly, and it will actually move the spine. And when the spine is out of alignment, it sends bad information in to the brain, and then the brain gives bad information out, and it's literally a feedback cycle. So what would happen if we take the spine, stimulate it, and put it straight, and it gets good information going into the brain? Then the outcome or the output is correct. Now, this system can literally, and if you want to look at it, I have the contemporary model of subluxation. We have it printed here in office. You can look at it, and it shows that this misalignment will affect how you see things, how you hear things, your emotions, your organ systems, basically how you experience life. If we look at this on a neurological level, it's because of a very, very rudimentary thing. Have any of us felt the feeling of falling backwards? Like, what does it feel like when you're falling backwards? That kind of uneasy feeling? That uneasy feeling is your vestibular system working. That's your brain talking to your inner ears, and then as you get older, your motor cortex to cerebellum to inner ears to ankles and spinal column, specifically the little muscles along the spine called the paraspinals, telling you where you are in space. If this isn't working correctly, your body literally freaks out. You go into fight or flight. So did any of you watch the movie Inception? No. So in Inception, what they did to wake the people up is they had them fall backwards. And that'll wake you up. So if anybody has anybody had to do a trust fall before? That's the vestibular system on high alert. That system activates 2 weeks after the infantile withdrawal reflex activate. That's the one where we do the brushing. So you go, well, why do I start with the brushing when I'm getting adjusted, doc? We're literally making the most rudimentary brainstem function work correctly first. Then we go to the next rudimentary, which is vestibular. Where am I in space? And if those two work, then we can make the whole upper thing work. If they don't, we got problems. Because that means the system that literally runs, how you perceive, how are you in fight or flight or relaxation, is not working correctly. And then we overreact. So who do we find with chronic inflammation with those issues showing up? People with issues. Everything from anxiety and depression to pains and aches, and it's all showing up. How does it show up? It shows up based on your genetic predisposition. My genetic predisposition when I stress out is I get low back pain. So my predisposition based on my family is low back pain. Other people, we have other parts of my family, they get autoimmune diseases. They get MS, they get ALS, they get diabetes. Other people get self-medicating. Other people get anxiety. Other people, and it's just based on what your family has learned to turn on when you stress. So what do we want to take away from this is good information in, good information out. If the spine is properly aligned and I feel your spine and all the muscles are firing equally, then I know you're getting good information into the brain. If it isn't, then I know you're getting bad information into the brain. Guess what I find on the people who have the worst low back pain and neck pain, as well as the worst anxiety and depression? One side of the spine is really strong and the other side is very weak because they're not getting good information in. So what we want to do, and this is a central modal network is what it's called, is we want to stimulate the brain to make those muscles stable. And that's what I do with the adjustment. So the adjustment is actually about making the brain stable so that it gets interpretation correctly and then information comes out correctly. Does it make sense? So let's get into that one very, 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 very important system. Mind my drawing, but what we're showing you here is liver, kidneys, large intestine, small intestine, esophagus, trachea, stomach. There is one sensory and partial motor nerve that controls all of this. Do we know what it is? Somebody said Vegas, and that is correct. And we're not going to Las Vegas. We're talking about the nerve here. That is correct, the vagus nerve, cranial nerve number 10. And I need you to understand, cranial nerve number 10 is more about sensory than it is actually about motor. Why is that? The brain needs to know what you're doing to be able to control it. So if you are somebody who has digestive issues, maybe you get tummy aches, maybe you don't digest your food right, maybe we get constipation or diarrhea, maybe we get gas, maybe we get bloating, that nerve is at play. How do I test you to know if that nerve is working correctly? Do you guys remember? I literally take that long Q-tip and put it in your mouth and test you. I need you to understand, for normal function, the back of your tongue, the posterior 1/3 of your tongue, will stimulate that reflex. That means all I'm supposed to do is touch the middle back part of your tongue, and you're supposed to gag. How many people have that come in? 1 out of every 100. Oh my gosh, you're telling me that most people that are sick have this problem? That is exactly what I'm telling you. And I'm also telling you, remember how we talked about that feedback, feed forward system? If the information going in is bad, what's the information coming out? So what's that going to lead to? Healthier or sicker people? It's sicker. It's really simple, right? But it's literally, it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, you won't work. You will not heal. How do I look at this? What have we seen? So what I've seen is, let's take people who have had chronic digestive issues, and they will tell me things like this. I've gone to a functional medicine, a naturopathic provider, or I've gone to a dietitian, and I've spent between $5,000 to $10,000 doing the protocol. I felt better for a short period of time, and then within 6 months later, the problem came back. What they're literally telling you is they took all the right supplements, but they have not changed the way their bowel actually works. Because if it came back, it means their bowel didn't regrow correctly. Does that make sense? That's chronically what I see. Or autoimmune is the same way. If that nerve doesn't work, you are not going to heal. So if you have a friend and you take a toothbrush and they're not allowed to like jam it really hard, just touch the back of the tongue and they don't go. Don't tell them what you're looking for. Have them do it. That's why they're sick. That's why they're not getting better. That nerve literally isn't working, so they can't make their brain work to control everything correctly. So let's use an analogy. This is like a log jam on the Platte River. All the water is going to back up. Nothing's going to get downstream. We need to literally make it start working again. The chiropractic adjustment is the quickest way to stimulate it. Guess what else stimulates it? Running. Guess what else stimulates it? Singing. Guess what else stimulates it? Gargling. But the most powerful way I've found to stimulate it after the adjustment is that stimulator, that vagal nerve stimulator that I have a lot of people buying, where they put it in their left ear. And you get the nerve working. And once the nerve works, then when you take all the nutrition, it works. It stays. The problems don't come back. So you have a friend or family member who is chronically sick, test them. You want to know the two things that you can test that anybody can know, but literally tells you how stressed out their brain is? How big are their pupils? Look at their eyes. And I can almost guarantee everyone you meet, that right pupil is going to be huge. The bigger the difference between the sides tells you how bad the person is. So if we're seeing that right one is huge and the left one is small, we have head injury or severe neurological issues going on. Severe inflammation. So you look at your patients, you look at your friends, you look at your family members. Those pupils are big, chronically big. We know they're stressed out. That's why they're not getting better. We have them take their toothbrush, touch the back of their tongue. Nothing happens. Has to go all the way back to the throat. That means we got a problem. That means the vagus nerve is not working, and they're not going to heal until that's working. What do we need to do to make it work? Decrease the inflammation, stimulate it, and so forth. If you have those two markers, we can definitely help them. If they have those two markers, it doesn't matter what drug you take. It doesn't matter how much exercising you do, you're not going to get better. This is black and white stuff. This is why diets don't always get you healthy. This is why exercise doesn't always get you healthy. This is why stress management doesn't always get you healthy. It's because there's an underlying system that if it's not working correctly, you're not going to heal. This is that system. Make sure the vagus is working and you will heal. Making sense? So if we have that going on, we should help that person. If we look at the same thing with muscles outside of the spine, that's going to be a reflection of the motor cortex at the top and the cerebellum. So if our muscle right here, our bicep muscle, won't contract as well, it's telling me that part of the brain at the top, the information going out to the arm and back is not working correctly. Now, if I adjust you and it doesn't work correctly and all the spinal muscles are aligned, then what I'll do, and this is where most chiropractors stop and we take over and start looking, then I'll actually start looking at meridians. So you'll notice every once in a while, I'll take out this tuning fork and put it on different parts of your body. I'm actually stimulating the energy cycle in the body. So each meridian is correlated to an organ. So an example, if you have somebody who has chronic shoulder issues, they won't go away, and you come and test them and you pull their arm out, that means their rhomboid, the muscle in their back is weak. You adjust them, it does not strengthen. And then you can test them and see if their liver is a problem and it strengthens. Their shoulder issue is actually coming from the fact that their liver is weak and it's causing that meridian to be weak. And then their problems show up. So there's different cycles and different ways to look at things. So you can look at purely structural, and that's what all my chiropractic colleagues do. But then you have to start looking, how is the brain talking to the body? Is the vagus nerve working correctly? Are the meridians working correctly? Where are they holding stress? Is the brain firing correctly? Is the brainstem working correctly? The midbrain, the motor cortex, the frontal lobe? These are all things that I have to go through and figure out with each person. So it's not just, you have low back pain, we can help you. We can if it's not cancer. Because your low back pain could be coming from an emotional issue that you're suppressing, causing the hip flexors to not work correctly. Your low back pain could be coming from those muscles being imbalanced. Your low back pain could come from the fact that you just keep doing a repetitive job. Your low back pain could also be coming from the fact that you're suppressing an emotion or a thought and you can't deal with it, or it won't change. So people with chronic emotional stress have low back pain and neck pain chronically because they're not allowing the prostate or reproductive or ovarian energy systems to work correctly. They're suppressing. That's one. But it can be physical. So which one is it? I don't know. We got to test. Make sense?
Yeah, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
In this crazy era now, everybody losing weight, including myself, where I've dropped so much weight now. Well, the reason I'm doing it is I'm shooting up with Ozempic. Mm-hmm. So how does all that relate to the vagus nerve and all that? Because if I take too much Ozempic, I can vomit a lot.
So the question,
I can't hold down food.
Yeah. So the question is, if somebody uses a large amount of Ozempic, if you don't know what that is, that's that GLP-1. It helps improve or increase insulin sensitivity and insulin release. What would that cause? When insulin spikes, it sucks blood sugar out of the blood. But insulin at high levels can also trigger an inflammatory cascade. So it can turn on a gene called NF kappa or NF kappa 1 or NF kappa 1. And basically it turns on an inflammatory cytokine or inflammatory cascade. So if you take enough, you can suppress everything that's going on because all the hormones have feedback cycles. Insulin is too high. It literally tells you to start producing cortisol to try to balance it out. And if cortisol goes up, it tells you you're in fight or flight, which tells you to suppress, which turns off the vagus nerve, suppresses the vagus nerve, pushes up more of the sympathetic tone, so more brainstem.
So is that good for you or bad for you?
Depends on what you're doing and how long you're doing it for. Everything in moderation is okay. It's just based on what you need to do to modulate yourself. In your specific case, I'd have to look at your blood sugar numbers. I'd have to look at your.
Well, they used to be 500 and then they came down and now I'm 130.
But what we also want to look at is blood sugar, leptin, and
Yeah.
insulin, as well as triglycerides. So we want to look at sugars because they tell you how inflamed are. Leptin modulates diet. Insulin modulates how much you reabsorb. And then you want to look at cholesterol and triglycerides to tell you if you're metabolizing correctly or not. So it's not as simply as is this drug good or bad for me? It's what is it doing? Because I don't know.
Yeah, and in my case, you're kind of setting the stage for being aligned, and then I see a cardiologist, a nephrologist, a neurologist, and so I'm getting my
you're
education.
telling me, yeah, we're chronically inflamed, and if we can get in, so the bigger thing is if sugars are high for too long, it causes what's called glycolated end products, and that's what causes bad stuff to happen. That's what causes your eyes to go, your kidneys to go, your heart to go, all those things. So high sugar is literally cancer to you. It will cause cancer.
Right. And
so you want to get that down.
Yeah.
So the answer is how do we get it down and how do we move forward? So that's the simple thing is there is a way to do it, but then we want to maybe start looking at diet modification, lifestyle modification, see what's triggering and not. There's fire times when you need drugs and there's other times when you don't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, except I'm confused. I talk to all these different doctors and they all have different opinions and you keep doing.
So the simple answer is I can't tell you until I see the blood work.
Okay.
That's the simple answer. And as soon as I look at that, then I can tell you what's going on. So I'm sorry I couldn't give you the answer there.
No, that's fine. I've improved a lot with Ozempic. I was fourth stage kidney failure. And so I'm not that anymore.
Yeah, so if blood sugar comes down, you'll stop hurting your kidneys. Those are glycolated end products. Those go down, and then your body starts healing itself. Then if we give you the right nutrients, we give you things to heal cells like glutathione, then the body can actually start healing itself, and you can start getting rid of the toxins correctly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
What we're going to talk about now is Jane. So Jane came in, and Jane had depression, constipation, couldn't sleep. She looked completely healthy though. You know, she's 5'4", 120 pounds, looks like she's in good shape, exercises all the time, but she literally has insomnia. And she's told when she has these anxiety attacks, nothing's wrong with me. Because when she gets tested, if you haven't seen this, when you go to the Western medicine, what they look at for a thyroid problem is this TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. That's only one thing. That's only looking at the brain, and is the brain telling the thyroid how to function? Unless you go to your specific endocrinologist, they'll actually sometimes measure the actual active hormone, which tells you how much energy you're going to have, which is T3. So Jane has all this stuff going on. But then we come in and we start testing Jane. And we find out Jane's vagus nerve isn't working correctly. Well, that's a big red flag, because what does that tell us? That tells us she can't digest food correctly. It tells us her whole digestive tract isn't working correctly. And it also tells us, and I didn't get into this, that she can't move the neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, dopamine, serotonin, from her gut to her brain. So her anxiety can literally be coming from that. I forgot to mention, Jane also has chronic knee pain. So chronic knee pain and pain can also come from chronic gut issues. So what I'm showing you here is sugar could be the problem. Spinal misalignment could be the problem. Vagal nerve could be the problem. You got to assess all of these to let you know what's actually going on. And we could have an underlying inflammatory issue causing it. A lot of the kids that I'm seeing nowadays, they have anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, And it's literally because they're allergic to a food that you would think is healthy. So we have kids that if they eat potatoes, literally causes brain inflammation. And their ADD gets worse. Or eggplant. Or we've heard of lectins before. There's that one medical doctor who talks about lectins all the time as being the root cause of all disease. It is for some people, not all of them. That means for these ADD kids, if they have a lectin issue, eating black beans can literally make their brain inflamed and their ADD worse. It's not just sugar. So the only way you know is if you test. So if we look at Jane, she's got these gut issues, she's got anxiety, she's got depression. What does she do? She's told it's just in her head. Nothing we can do. No blood tests are showing us anything. Well, if you do the right tests, it'll show, but you have to go in depth and know what to look for. That's where the functional component comes in, not just the symptom. And if you look at the vagus, and this is what I want you to take away, test your friends and family. You will be surprised on how many people do not gag. And it's not forcibly. Literally, this is all that's supposed to happen. So you watch. I gag when I literally put my finger halfway up my tongue. That's normal. If I can take and touch the back of your tongue and nothing happens, we have a severely depressed vagus nerve and you will never heal until that's fixed. It's black and white. We got to get that fixed. The adjustment, the stimulator will help. If this system is working correctly, the brain will actually heal. Get the brain to work, get the inflammation down, you'll heal. And you'll start healing from multiple issues. What I want your takeaway to be is test your friends. It's simple. Look at their eyes. See how big they are. Tell them, take the spoon and touch the back of your tongue and let's see what happens. Nothing? We have big problems. That's why you have an issue. Function has to be broken for literally years, tens of years, until heart disease and cancer shows up. It has to be broken for years for anxiety and depression to show up. You have to grow the problem. And that's what most people don't understand. It doesn't just jump out of the sky. You grow the problem. That means you can grow back health. So when that friend or family member tells you something, oh my gosh, I have this and that, look at their eyes. Oh, they're big. Oh, they don't gag. Have you ever tried looking at this a different way? I bring this up because next week is our Patient Appreciation Week. This is the no-brainer of no-brainers. This is, I have a friend or family member and I want to know how healthy they are. You pay for it. It's literally cheaper than going to a pizza nowadays. It's $20. And you can actually see how they're doing. Actually see why they have their problems. And you could change their lives. So think of one person and just talk to them. And if you've talked to all your friends, think of somebody who else that might need help. But I'm asking of this because this is our way to give back to our community. And I just ask for you to give back to your community as well. Thank you all for being here. Have a good night.
Sure. Yep. Thank you, Doc.